Hello, and welcome to His Author's Voice. And I am the author, Jack Sanger. I'm about to read Canto 3 of Trial and Punishment, a space epic in verse. What we know from the first two cantos is that an alien spacecraft has moved towards Earth, that on Earth itself there appear to be two heroes, one in the east and one in the west. But at the end of Canto 2, they have mysteriously disappeared at the point at which they are about to ignite worldwide insubordination. So, let's try Canto 3, shall we? The threat. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Arthur C. Clarke. On Mount Mauna Kea, Big Island, Hawaii, the infrared telescope trained its eye. The NASA near-Earth object programs were checking for asteroid battering rams, deep space-sourced danger on elliptical tours of the galaxy's solar clusters, with the contours of misshapen moons and the power on collision to produce an ice age and hasten the extinction of all life save the simplest cells, thus tolling humanity's final bell. The hope was that nuclear missiles could lock upon these rocky piles far away from the magnetic fields, which, with the atmosphere, together shield Earth so that it would not succumb to the radiation from an exploded bomb. Rockets were always on moments standby on the moon, ready to fly through near space for a rendezvous with whatever threat they located. So through the years the observers waited, noting all the nearest misses, the tiny lumps that were just like kisses glancing off Earth's protective bower or burning up in a meteor shower. A doctoral student on the graveyard shift, drinking coffee to give her a lift, was awakened from her bleary languor when her instruments flashed that there was an intruder, but what caused gridlock in her mind was the distance. Not beyond the solar wind, but unmoving between Earth and Mars, in full view, aligned by mystics with the Taurus, the bull. When her paralysis at last eased off, she gave the alarm to senior staff who came tumbling in over the next few minutes, eyes on stalks, effervescing spirits disbelieving their rational senses, which suggested a phenomenon so immense in size and logical impossibility that to adduce natural causes seemed insanity. Instead, the suspicion began to grow that the object denoted a UFO. For only an alien would have the means to appear without warning on their screens. With quaking limbs they conveyed the news, put responsibility in the politicians' shoes. By some fortuitous circumstance, an annual First World Conference on increasing trade around the globe was taking place in Oslo. Prime ministers and presidents were busy discussing a report's contents on causes of the climate crisis, their reactions defensive, full of lies. They wanted the rest of the world to cut their CO2 while trying to shut off criticism of their own histories, their own outpourings of toxicity. Thus, in the high-security fortress, covered by the world's fawning press, a weekend spent in backdoor pacts and scant critique, masked by tact. While beyond the cameras and streaming data, gourmet meals, wines, and later the gigolos and courtesans with fake IDs deployed their charms. Ministers of these superpowers caroused until the early hours. The US president was playing cards outside his door. Security guards Solitaire was his personal means to wind down from the political schemes. He'd had to navigate during the day interminable translations to pay attention to constant shows of brotherly respect to nations who did everything to effect a mimicry of the USA. Autocrats having seized the day, copied him in word and actions, suppressing their subjects with daily sanctions, using secret police and cyber sweeps to patrol people's minds with increasing creep into their social and virtual spaces, removing threats and all traces of dissent. He laid down with a flourish the final card, and thus encouraged retired. But moments after his light was doused, his security phone flashed and roused him. "Mr. President, this is a red alert. An alien craft has appeared near Earth." A conference call with his 5-star generals scared him. There was nothing ephemeral about the alien's presence. Earth's side of Mars, the vessel must have crossed the stars at supernatural speed on its unknown mission, materializing on monitors like an apparition. Was it enemy? Was it friend? Did it represent Earth's future or end? Or something else beyond imagination? This intervention in God's own creation. The president and his generals had prayed, holding hands in an attempt to allay fears by invoking their Christian faith, repressing the thought that the wraith ship might worship at a different altar, or have no belief at all, no moral halter. The first decision the president made was to seek to have the news delayed while he primed his country's military defences against attack. And his PR team commenced to compose a message of peace and love to broadcast to the visitor, motionless above. His attempts at gagging the news were of course in vain. Other observatories broadcast the claim that halfway between Earth and Mars was a UFO, an intruder from the stars. A global panic and attendant chaos erupted in weeks with looting and loss of life, murder, rape and suicide as governments lost all control of armies, police, their national guards fragmenting, infighting with no regard for morality. A contagion of bestiality swept the world as humanity lost its civilized veneer, as infrastructures disappeared, electricity, water, sewage failing, no internet, no vidlink, no emailing. World leaders fled to bomb-proof shelters powered by off-grid generators with unlimited food and water, but no wish to contact their subjects for fear of revealing their locations and inviting assassinations. It seemed that after millions of years, humanity had evolved to a point where everything gained was lost in weeks, and Earth not inherited by the meek, but by the dark side of the human psyche. Yet this would be a travesty of reality, given the long-drawn-out catastrophe, the centuries of prophet philosophy, the lack of care for the Earth's resources, the obscenity of frequent wars, the genocides, famines, brutal oppression, the unending poverty and lack of compassion. In truth, a drifting, suicidal spree had culminated in this calamity. It was impossible to imagine a way back to order. With depravity so universal, without border, how could discipline be instilled in populations that had lost the will to be civilized, when those in power were excommunicado, cowards? Who could stop the mounting toll of deaths by the millionfold? So, like a single body in a deathly spasm, humankind lay gripped in a profound chasm of despair, allowing no light, its soul damned to eternal night. Civilization was an abattoir, above which death's banner flowered, and depravity was sunken to its worst, all hope dashed, all ideals cursed. It was at this dance macabre's height that a paranormal sleight of hand halted the carnage. As if a godly command had every knife in mid-air checked, above a victim's helpless neck, every hand on a woman's thigh paralysed, every bullet's murderous sound silenced, fallen, a hailstone to the ground, every bomb and mine inert, mass murder just averted. What unknown and limitless power had intervened at this 11th hour? The cause of this sudden cessation of evil excess was a mystery, a miracle, if temporary. In all the bunkers, hideouts, forts, world's leaders were brought to heel, reset to zero, forced to think and act like heroes, to demonstrate humility, to exemplify civility. And that same supernatural wand that stilled psychotic hands with altruism and grace also showed its power to raise overnight the towers and mend the cables, restoring media to make available the means to govern. And every person now discovered that acts of love were unsurpassed as antidotes to a heinous past. But it was an illusory start to the new epoch. The heart might define all aspects of human conduct, yet along deep mental viaducts lay the repressed memories of evil done. Rebirth a Pyrrhic victory, sleep disturbed by dread nightmares, and an undiagnosed waking despair formed cold droplets on the skin. Reason and emotion were in spin, causing a fearful anxiety to haunt humanity. A curious element in this change was that no eyes thought to range the skies, to observe the pinprick. Even astronomers, observing the thick cream of the Milky Way, somehow missed the UFO, wondering what nagged at them so as they did. Nothing crystallized in the data, all records had been revised. Each nation's leader, with new piety, focused on the restoration of society. The engines of industry crackled back to life as power returned after the strife, and the tapestry of civilization falteringly recovered without drama, yet bland, as if sleepwalkers had inherited the land. But during and following the apocalypse, Earth's elemental ruptures had not eased. Volcanoes, storms, and fires still spewed toxic gases, fumes from conflict adding further acidity to the atmosphere of country and city. And the wilderness that had been eroded by industrial advance, wildlife goaded into contact with farm, town and village, releasing more viruses to spread and pillage, faster than any laboratory's means to create efficacious antidotal vaccines. Civil order might be reprieved, but it was mere flattery to deceive. The world's novel sense of peace was an illusion on a short-term lease. So, now we have Canto 3, the third of the 5 cantos in this space epic. And we have a synopsis of the thousands of years of humanity's stay as the superior species on Earth. It reads a little bit, of course, like Revelations. Flood, fire, pestilence, war. So what's going to happen next? Will the aliens intercede in Earth's slow demise? I'll be reading the next canto in the next day or so. In the meantime, you can read the whole poem, of course, by going to my site, www.jacksanger.com. And there are also novels, short stories and plays there. And please subscribe to the site, and we'll see you soon. Many thanks. Bye-bye.